Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This entire saga was collected on r/BestOf. This post was collected by Chilean RS. And their tagline is, "Tomorrow is a new onion. Wish me onion. Onion." It was initially marked inconclusive, but we actually do have the conclusion in yesterday's video. The original OP is Patricia Luna, posted in r/JustKnowMother-in-Law, January 21st, 2019. My stepmom broke into my house and stole food, then called CPS, also known as the tale of the Hamburglar. I am shaking. So we've had a lot going on lately. My husband drives a truck and his work slows way down during the winter, to the point we had to take out a loan to make utility payments. On top of that, I've been dealing with PPD since the birth of darling son 2, almost 6 months. And we found out about 2 weeks ago that I'm pregnant again. In desperation, I posted on the food pantry sub, and the response was amazing. We got so much food, I cried for days. I went to my doctor and we agreed that I needed some help and started an antidepressant. I accepted the idea of another baby, even if it was sooner than we wanted, and began to get excited. I was finally in a good place. I had my first OB yesterday morning, and we couldn't see the baby on the ultrasound, just the gestational sac, which was measuring about 8 weeks. My OB was really positive and said it may just be too early to see, but also mentioned the possibility of a blighted ovum. That basically just means that something went wrong and the baby never developed. There's not really a cause, just bad luck. I know it seems silly with how upset I originally was about being pregnant, but I was absolutely devastated. I sat in my car with my husband for a long time before I went to my mom's to pick up the boys. We got home to all of the food in our pantry gone. All that was left was some dry pasta and sauce and a few cans of tuna. The baby formula was gone. The baby food and diapers were gone. The packs of wipes refills were gone. All of the veggies out of the fridge were gone. There was just milk and leftovers. The doors were still locked and there were no signs of a break-in. And the only person with a key is my dad. I truly believe my dad didn't know anything about it. But when I told my stepmom about the food we were sent, she got vile. Started going off about how we shouldn't have kids if we can't take care of them ourselves, and demanded we give them custody of the boys immediately. I was honestly shocked. She's been a BEC, or bitch eating crackers apparently, before when we would ask them to watch the kids so we could go see a movie or something like that. Parents don't get to do that, the babies have to come first. But she's never been anywhere near this level. My dad stepped in and told her to shut the fuck up, and we left. In shock, but sure, it was over. Of course, I called and confronted her yesterday, and she denied everything. I called my dad, and he confirmed that she hadn't brought any food into the house and didn't think she would do that, but still asked me not to file a police report until I talked to her. I figured she could have very easily thrown it all out somewhere and decided I needed to file a police report anyway. Even though they'll never be able to prove it was her because this was a very clear attempt to endanger my kids. Thank God. CPS knocked on my door at 10 this morning, saying they had received a call the day before about unfit living conditions, namely a lack of food. I had the police report to show them and half a can of formula and some baby food, etc., out of the diaper bag, and the lady seemed genuinely understanding when I explained the situation. I told her the food had come from friends, not strangers on the internet. She did ask if I had any relatives that could keep the kids if they did end up having to remove them temporarily, which I found very strange. That's not something I would expect CPS to ask. I made sure to specify I would want them placed with my mom and not my father in light of everything that has happened, and she assured me that she didn't think anything would come of it, but she would be following up in a week or so to see that we had the situation resolved. I am absolutely beside myself right now. I never had a good relationship with this woman growing up, but she always seemed to really have the best interest of the kids at heart. She genuinely dotes on them and has previously been very helpful. They helped with daycare for my oldest while I still worked, even bought formula for him when he was just a baby and we were really struggling. I don't want to believe she would do something like this, but I honestly see no other explanation. We've changed the locks already, but I have no idea where to go from here. My oldest was supposed to stay with them this weekend, which clearly won't be happening. But he's 4 and doesn't understand why. I could really use any advice you guys have for me. Update 1, February 1st, 2019, 10 days later. First and foremost, thank you all so much for the overwhelming response. I wrote my post yesterday from a really dark place, feeling as if I had somehow failed my boys by allowing someone so evil into their lives. I felt as if I should somehow have known, somehow protected them from her. You all reminded me that she's just a hateful, vile person. It got to the point that I simply couldn't keep up with the comments, but please feel free to PM me if you want to make sure I see something. I really appreciate all the support, and everyone reaching out through PM has been a welcome distraction throughout the day as I try to get affairs in order. I did try to reach out to CPS today. That was an interesting call. Without going into a lot of details, the case is legit. The supervisor I spoke with was extremely kind and professional. I explained that I was asking because someone had stolen our food before the call was made, and I simply wanted to be sure it was an actual CPS worker, as I had been pretty flustered when she showed up. She was shocked when I said that she had simply showed up, as it's apparently their policy to call beforehand to arrange a time that doesn't inconvenience the family when it isn't an emergency abuse call. We talked a bit more about the visit, and she agreed with me that several things were handled very unprofessionally. I was able to confirm that my follow-up will be next Friday, and she told me that she's assigning a new agent to our case. She also told me that she'll be investigating that agent, but I'm not sure if I really believe that will happen. I'm happy to have a different agent anyways. She said that as long as they get there, and we have plenty of food, the case will be closed. Because everything else seems perfect, but to go ahead and have their doctor's records ready so that they can be on file. I went to the boys' pediatrician today and got triple copies of their records. So Monday, I'm going up to the office and bringing in their records and leaving with a copy of the report. 1 copy of the records will be going in our fireproof document safe at home, and another copy into the fireproof document safe at my mom's house, to be moved to a safety deposit box as soon as we're able. My dad has been the most disappointing part of the saga. He's absolutely refused to believe that my stepmom would do this, and has called several times, furious, going on about how much my accusations have upset her, and demanding I apologize. I finally told him I was picking up the CPS report on Monday, and will call him to arrange a place to meet and talk without the Hamburglar. I love it. Shout out to the brilliant user who suggested it. I can't find your comment again in the insanity that is my previous post. My poor husband was out of town for work all week while all of this was going on. I feel like every time I called him this week, something tragic was happening, from my OB appointment to the break-in to the CPS visit. I didn't even really get to talk to him today. Between being on hold with CPS and running around to doctors and fighting with my dad. When this angel, kind of hard to say that nowadays with the future context, got home tonight, he had stopped on the way home from his truck to buy me a $2 bath bomb out of his food money and promptly put me into a hot candlelit tub. He put the kids to bed, rubbed my feet, and painted my toenails. He helped me as I cried and celebrated with me when I told him about the overwhelming support we'd received when I shared our story. He specifically told me to tell you guys that he's incredibly thankful for you all being there when he couldn't be. He is being an absolute rock star right now. He is currently doing the laundry and dishes that have been neglected the last few days while I binge Game of Thrones and Reddit. I'm really so grateful for the support you guys have given me. This community is overwhelming. I'll probably never get to every comment, but please feel free to PM me to check in. Having people from the sub to talk to today has helped me so much. You all are the absolute best. Maybe if I'm feeling up to it this weekend, I'll share some childhood stories about the Hamburglar and why I honestly should have never been surprised she tried to ruin my life through food. Edit to add that I'm being lovingly sent to bed to catch up on some much-needed sleep, so I will respond to you lovely people in the morning. Note, there was confusion with the Just No Mother-in-Law team. So she also posted to r/letters to just no mother-in-law, which will be referenced. Update 2. The Hamburglar tries to steal an Amazon package. Posted February 2nd, 2019 at just no mother-in-law. So real quick, just some soft Oz lore here. February 3rd was a Sunday, and that was also the Super Bowl where they had the SpongeBob Bubble Bowl kind of like homage/cameo going on. This was also the same Super Bowl that I uploaded my first video on the Oz Media channel. So, February 2nd, 2019, one day after the previous update. When I moved my update to r/letters to just no mother-in-law, I promised you guys a Hamburglar related update today, but thought I might be sharing a phone call since she was blowing up my phone at breakfast. This one's a doozy. So my angel of a mother is just as broke as we are, but does have the benefit of a full pantry. She has been inviting us over for practically every meal the last couple days, and she only lives about 10 minutes away, so we've been taking her up on the offer a lot. This morning we were treated to a giant platter of homemade French toast that was heavenly. Hamburglar was blowing up my phone the 2 hours we were there, which is actually the first time she attempted to make contact since I first confronted her about stealing our food. I refused to let her ruin my morning and put my phone on silent. We made our way back home about 10 a.m., fat and happy, to a screaming harpy on our porch. Hamburglar was on the porch with the original social services worker. I have no idea if this is a friend of hers or just some poor woman who the bitch has sunk her claws into, but I do know that Hamburglar seems to have a direct line to her instead of the CPS office, and apparently has enough pull to have her at my house at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I immediately sank down to the seat with a chorus of fuck, 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 fuck. So, darling husband parked behind Hamburglar in our very narrow driveway, thank God, and went out to confront her. From the car, I could hear her screaming about the locks being changed, which immediately told me she was trying to get into my house again. Darling husband said something I couldn't hear because he wasn't screaming like a lunatic. He later told me that he said we changed them so she couldn't steal anything else from our children. And she slapped him. Guys, my husband is a 6'2", 250-pound teddy bear. He has never in his life dreamed of laying a hand on another person. He doesn't even like to discipline the 4-year-old because the kid cries when you put him in timeout. I saw red. I got out of the car and immediately started across the yard to be intercepted by the social services lady halfway across. I told her, rather rudely I'll admit, that I had been informed she was no longer on my case and asked her what the hell she was doing on my property when no one was home. She then told me that the only reason no one was home was because we had fled after she was called. I told her no one had been there when we left for breakfast before 8 that morning, and the dumb bench laughed at me. Apparently, she got a call from Hamburglar around 9 saying I was punching my 4-year-old in the face repeatedly to the point of bleeding, and we left after hearing her make the call so that we wouldn't be there when she arrived. Husband heard her say this and started across the yard right about the time she was telling me I needed to get the kids out of the car so she could examine them. Husband positioned himself between her and the car and told her under no circumstances were the kids leaving the car while they were on the property. Hamburglar notices that no one was paying attention to her and took the opportunity to sprint past us to the car where the kids were still sitting buckled into their seats. Impressive, really, since she must be at least 300 pounds. When she realized the doors were locked, she began beating on the window right next to my 4-year-old's face with 2 closed fists, screeching, "Darling son 1, open the door! Open the door for me, Ma!" Now, he's still buckled into a 5-point harness and the doors are child-locked. There's absolutely no way he's letting her into that car. But there's a very real possibility of her showering my toddler in glass. Husband, again, reacts quickly and pulls the crazy lady away from the car while I'm standing there in shock. Husband tells the senile old bats they have to leave the property immediately, and the CPS lady pipes up that she isn't leaving until she can be sure that she isn't leaving 2 children in an abusive and vulnerable situation. I asked her, if she thought I was beating my toddler bloody, why weren't the police called? She told me that it was a CPS matter and not a police matter. And I laughed and told her I disagreed and I was calling the police and started walking down the driveway towards the Hamburglar's car to make the call. This prompted her to begin screaming, "Don't touch my car!" Okay, so what's in her car? I peer in the window and see a fucking Amazon box with our name and address. So now I get to tell the cops that not only is she trespassing, she's stealing our mail. We live less than 5 minutes from the police station, so as I'm making the call, husband decides she can't leave if she's blocked in and lets go of her. Well, she decided to shove me to the ground, get in her car and drive through the yard, missing running me over by maybe a foot. Husband sees what's happening and gets in front of her car, so now she's between the house and our car with husband in front of her and a chain link fence behind her. Naturally, she reverses into the fence right as the police cruiser is pulling up. I swear to God, a completely different person got out of that car. What moments ago had been a very fat version of the vampire brides from Van Helsing became a stuttering, hobbling grandmother with a bad box red dye job. It was unsettling. Because this is getting long, I'll try to condense the rest as much as I can. She claimed, "We were horrible, abusive parents, but had threatened her and frightened her badly enough that she was trying to leave, but we wouldn't let her. Our package was only in her car because she was worried it was on the porch in such a bad neighborhood and wanted to keep it safe, but couldn't take it inside for us because we changed our locks." The CPS worker repeated the story she had told us to the cops and said that she didn't leave when we told her because we refused to let her examine the children. When the cops looked at my kids and confirmed that no one had been beating anyone bloody, Hamburglar said she must have been mistaken, but didn't understand why we would have left before the CPS bench got there if we hadn't done anything. Cops called my mom and confirmed the time we arrived and left her house. Cops made Hamburglar return the package, then refused to charge her for mail theft because the package was returned unopened. He did tell her that I had made it very clear she wasn't welcome here, and she would be arrested for trespassing if she returned. Hamburglar and co. left, and the cops asked us a few more uncomfortable questions about how our kids were treated. I'm sure it's policy when somebody says a kid might be being abused, but I was ready for the whole ordeal to be over. So, my mom will be staying at the house with me for the next few days to help me keep an eye out for packages and make sure I'm not here by myself if she comes back. I took the rest of the day to calm down and figure out how to move forward. Since it was nearly 2 p.m. when the cops finally left, I'll be going up to the office first thing Monday morning to file a report against that CPS worker. And where's my dad in all of this? Radio silence. The package was a can of formula sent Saturday overnight delivery. So if that was someone here, we received it mostly safely. Update 3, a mini Hamburglar update, posted February 5th, 2019, on Just No Mother-in-Law, 3 days later. Well, yesterday was eventful. I was able to get a temporary restraining order against both the Hamburglar and her CPS buddy. The CPS supervisor is working with us to make sure she receives full legal repercussions and loses her job, as apparently this isn't the first time she's had an incident like this, which tells me that she doesn't know Hamburglar and she's just a meddling bitch. She even gave me a list of attorneys to reach out to, if needed, who should work with us pro bono on the theft. We got so many packages today. Thank you so much to everyone who reached out to help us. Not everyone was here, but I don't really have a way of tying packages to users, so thank you. Special thanks to the user who sent me bath bombs. I'm taking a nice bath when I get done posting here. Our follow-up OB to try to find out for sure what's going on is bright and early in the morning, so I would greatly appreciate any well wishes, thoughts and prayers, or good vibes that you have to offer. We're trying to be positive, but we're terrified. All of her crap was the last thing we needed right now. Update 4. Hamburglar got what she wanted, posted February 15th, 2019 on r/letters to Just No Mother-in-Law, 10 days from the previous update. Accidentally just deleted this whole post, so I'm internally screaming right now. Anyone here who has read my posts knows that the Hamburglar doesn't think me fit to raise children, to the point of trying to have our children taken away. For anyone wanting to know, our follow-up CPS visit was wonderful, and our case was closed. We went to our follow-up for the possible blighted ovum to discover a happy and healthy babe who was just not quite as far along as we thought. We got to see a nice strong heartbeat and went home with pictures. We felt confident enough that the only problem was an early scan that my husband went ahead and went out of state for work this weekend. I went back to my OB early this morning with mild cramping to find out that my baby has no heartbeat. I haven't even been able to reach my husband to tell him yet. I'm planning on scheduling a DNC when he gets home, but if something happens before then, he won't be here, and it's a 10-hour drive. He can't start until in the morning. I'm scared and alone. Update 5, in which Hamburglar gets out of jail and back in 24 hours. Posted June 6th, 2019, in r/JustNoMother-in-law, roughly about 4 months later. Hello, all of you beautiful people. I'm so sorry that I haven't been updating here. So much has happened. So, buckle up. This is a long ride. I did manage to get a restraining order against the Hamburglar with the help of CPS. Over the course of the last couple of months, original CPS lady lost her job too, as we weren't the first time she had abused her power, and Hamburglar ended up losing her mind in a spectacular way. Content warning for pregnancy loss details in this paragraph. My pregnancy was a bit of a roller coaster. Had my first ultrasound, for those who don't remember, they thought I had a blighted ovum. I went back a week later to see a healthy fetus with a good, strong heartbeat, but a small spot that looked like it might be a subdural hemorrhage. Scheduled another ultrasound a week after that, went by myself while my husband was out of state for work, and found that the hemorrhage had grown from less than half the size of the babe to more than half of my uterus, and there was no longer a heartbeat. Husband drives a truck, so it was impossible to even get in touch with him that day until he got off work. Due to the size of the hemorrhage and the fact that I hadn't had any bleeding, I was going to have a DNC to prevent sepsis, and I didn't want to schedule anything without husband there with me. So, I left the OB and called my dad. In a moment of weakness, I still regret, months later, my dad was an angel, immediately supportive and offered to come get the kids and watch them for as long as we needed. Thankfully, I turned him down as the kids were still with my mom since I had been put on bed rest up until this appointment. I told him everything that had happened, including my current condition and the impending procedure, and the fact that I couldn't talk to husband until he got off work, so I was basically dealing with this alone. He told me to come out to their house, and I told him point blank that the last person I wanted to deal with right now was Hamburglar, and he said he understood and dropped it. So of course he told Hamburglar what was going on, and of course she proceeds to blow up husband's phone for 6 hours. So when he gets off work, instead of immediately calling me, as he would have, he called her first, because he was afraid someone had died. He had hundreds of missed calls from her. She answers the phone by screaming about how I'm a murderer. I went off while he was gone to get an abortion. Apparently I had been planning this for weeks. Anyway, he knew she was full of shit and hung up on her, then called me. So I didn't even get to tell him in my own way. I had to explain that Hamburglar was a fucking bitch and how she had come to that wildly different conclusion. I called my dad to tell him what she did, and as far as I know, he was pissed and promised we wouldn't be hearing from her again. I ended up getting the procedure scheduled for a week after the ultrasound, and luckily got the cameras we were gifted set up before then, because we came home afterwards to a completely destroyed home. The crazy bitch busted through our window with a golf club that she would have had to buy for this express purpose because neither of them golf, and let herself in, then proceeded to destroy everything we own. She destroyed our TV, our Xbox, took a knife to our mattress, including the kids, and our brand new couch. She piled every piece of clothing she could find in the house, ours and the kids, in the middle of the living room and covered them in bleach. Gallons and gallons. She smashed every breakable thing she could find with a golf club, including the toilet, our dishes, every window in the house, everything. She shoved our AC unit out the window onto the ground, destroying it. She didn't touch the food though, so I guess the don't mess with your grandkid's food lesson set in, but that was it. Honestly, at this point in time, it just sounds like the mother-in-law is just severely unwell and needs just psychiatric assistance. We got home to Hamburglar sprawled out in the front yard, golf club in one hand and my bottle of wine in the other, absolutely plastered, screaming about how I'm a murdering bitch who hates children, trying to keep my babies from me. We're also those weird people that collect liquor in weird/interesting bottles, and every single one was smashed in the yard around her. I'm not sure how many she tried to drink and how many she just broke, because she would have died if she had drank them all. But she had very clearly drank plenty. She didn't even get up out of the grass to actually engage us. Just laid there and yelled. I guess trying to make sure the whole neighborhood knew how awful I was. So, husband calls the cops while I sit there and listen to her screech about how I'm going to hell, I murdered my child because I can't handle the responsibility of being a parent, I'm a baby killer, I should have just died instead because she would have raised my baby ad nauseum. She was honestly just repeating the exact same things over and over and over. Meanwhile, I just had a D&C for my miscarriage maybe an hour ago. I'm dealing with the pain of losing a very much wanted pregnancy, and she's here spewing her pro-life bullshit at me. After about 20 minutes of this, the cops show up. Husband finally goes inside with one officer while the officer stays outside with Hamburglar and me, and actually sees the extent of the damage. Meanwhile, the cop outside listens to Hamburglar for a few minutes, then turns to me and says, "Are you sure you want to press charges? I mean, I can get her for drunk and disorderly, but there's no proof she actually did anything." Well, all of my windows are smashed, she's holding a golf club, and that's my bottle collection pieces around her. So, well, that's all circumstantial. There's no proof of anything. Let me tell y'all something real quick. I live in the Bible Belt. It took me all of 0.5 seconds to figure out what was going on here. This cop had listened to her abortion rant, decided she was justified, and was taking her side. But just wait. Quote, "Isn't that what a lawyer's for? We have a restraining order." End quote. Quote, "You have a restraining order?" "Yes, because she broke into our house and stole all of our food and then tried to run me over with her car while I was pregnant." I swear this cop laughed in my face. Okay, well, you're not pregnant now. Guys, if husband and the other cop hadn't come back outside right then, I would have been the one in jail. I had enough time to scream, "I had a fucking miscarriage," before husband was back next to me and moving me away. The other cop quickly shut the first one down and said they were taking Hamburglar immediately. He said it was the worst break-in he had ever seen in terms of damage. He actually called the first cop an idiot because Hamburglar wasn't in cuffs when he came back out and shut down the "it might be circumstantial" crap he was trying to spew. I guess some cops take restraining orders seriously. I gave my statement, had my mom pick me up, and husband dealt with the rest of the cop stuff. My dad finally seemed to come to his senses and refused to bail Hamburglar out. The next day, when she had sobered up enough to call him, him and several of his friends helped husband clean out all of our stuff, replace the broken windows with windows that were a bit more smash resistant than the ancient windows we had before, and toilet, and financed new furniture to replace the stuff she ruined. He wasn't able to make us completely whole, but it's a start, and we're working on rebuilding. Of course, Hamburglar tried to plead not guilty and had to go to trial. We gave our lawyer, that my dad paid for, the recordings we had of her smashing our window, reaching through to unlock the door, and destroying our living room. It didn't get everything, but it was more than enough. So when she tried to say she showed up drunk because she was so distraught over what I'd done and found my house like that, she looked stupid as fuck. You guys' court systems move hella quick. Now, let's fast forward to this morning. Hamburglar was released on parole, I think, I'm not 100% sure on the difference in parole and probation, on Monday. So not actually 24 hours, but close enough. I have the kids in daycare because I go back to work in a week. So I left my house at 8 this morning to drive them to daycare and then went back home. About 45 seconds after I locked the door behind me, Hamburglar pulls up in my driveway and gets out. So, obviously, she was watching for me to get home. She comes up to the door and starts knocking and calling through the door about how she just wants to talk. There's obviously been a bunch of misunderstandings between us. She wants to fix things and yada yada yada. Well, conditions of her release include that she was not allowed to contact me or my family in any way. So I called the cops again, who were very prompt in showing up this time. I watched through my brand new window as 3 cop cars surrounded my house within 4 minutes of me calling, and Hamburglar was cuffed and thrown into the back of a car. When I opened my door to give my statement, they were much nicer, and Hamburglar had switched back to screaming obscenities at me from the back of the cop car. I called my lawyer, who seemed thoroughly unsurprised, and he promised to call me as soon as he figures out what's going on, when she gets rebooked and everything. So, that's all done. And I'm sitting at a Starbucks down the street using the Wi-Fi because I suddenly feel unsafe in my home again, even though I'm pretty much sure she's back in jail. I'm sorry for the novel, but this has been a hell of a roller coaster, and I need to get it out. I haven't called my dad yet. I'm waiting until I have something to say besides, get your she-demon on a leash. Ugh. Final update. Hamburglar isn't in jail. Posted June 8th, 2019. To Just No Mother-in-Law. Basically, what the title says. How do I know this? She just drove past my house in broad daylight. I called my lawyer, and he said there's nothing they can do about her driving down the road. I do live in a pretty busy area. It's not like I'm out in the middle of nowhere. My street runs between 2 major roads in my city. We can't even prove that she did drive by. And of course, husband is out of town for work all weekend, so it's just me and the kids home. He won't be home until Friday. My mom is out of town visiting her girlfriend, so we can't go over there. I have a friend coming over to sit with me when she gets off work. But seriously? Anyways, I'll update if anything happens. Edit, reporting idiot cop on Monday. Has anyone had to do this before? Can you share your experience? Should I actually expect to hear if anything comes of it? Or will it be more of a, okay, thanks for telling us, we'll handle it, bye. Notable comments. So, why does your dad put up with any of this? Why does he stay with her? OP responds, they're now officially separated. In our state, you have to be separated for a year before you can get divorced. Someone responds, Jeez, was she always this crazy? Opie responds, she had issues, but nothing this blatant. This is definitely a new level of crazy for her. Honestly though, she can't have kids, so I think she decided she wanted mine, and that's what set this whole thing off. That makes the most sense out of anything else I can think of. Someone questions, is it possible to move? Opie responds, not immediately. We just don't have the finances for it. I start a new job tomorrow though, and it's definitely on our radar to do ASAP. We just have to pay catch-up first. The creator of this best of post adds this final note. There has been no other updates after this post that made me look OP up, and she hasn't posted any more posts on lending subreddits, but is still active on others if you check her comment history. So I hope she's in a better place now. Also, as many comments have noted, it is reasonably likely that although entertaining, there is no reason to believe this story is just that, a story, and some wanted me to mention that OP has asked for money in the past, and I would never condone anyone giving money to anyone on Reddit. You do not personally know. Again, this is not me, this is the collector of the post stating this. Please listen to all of this before you comment on my opinion on this one. That's just my only request here. So, this post puts me in kind of an interesting situation, and I was excited for this one. I know you guys were extremely excited for this one. I mean, hell, you guys smashed the like requirement that I wanted to have this post replace the traditional Am I the Asshole upload that would go up on Sundays. And at first, I was very much invested in this, but as the updates came, I'm not gonna lie, I became more and more suspicious of OP. From questions like, how do you forget that you have a security system? Which, for those of you who don't remember, when OP's husband, yes, the same husband that made her a bath that was candlelit when, gave her a foot massage, threw away her diabetic equipment and accused her of faking it, she had forgotten that they had a security system. She didn't think to fetch hundreds of dollars worth of diabetic equipment from the trash after it had been thrown away, even just to see what could be salvaged until after Reddit recommended it nearly a week later. And suddenly there was the footage. There's just so many weird little inconsistencies like this, and it definitely doesn't help that OP frequents a lot of writing subreddits, and OP, even after this best of collection here in the past 3 years, has been on multiple lending subreddits asking for further help from strangers. And from what I've seen, sometimes OP will post for asking help, that post gets deleted, OP posts a story like this, posts another thing asking for help, and then the help request is fulfilled. So it does make me kind of suspicious and unfortunately very concerned of the credibility of OP. And I hate bringing this up because we've all been through hard times. Hell, I have had a very, 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 very public rough time on the internet to where I needed help from strangers on the internet to help with legal fees. And thank God I did get help. So I understand better than anyone being in that position. If I were to be as optimistic as possible and, take what OP is stating as being truthful, I would say that OP definitely is embellishing some details, and that some things are more than likely were just added with the writing process, but the scenario itself could have definitely happened, without a doubt. It's just a question of how many of those details are embellished. And, when I see them posting on r/assistance asking for help with groceries and a glucose monitor, and then it gets removed, and then an hour later they post the story about what happened with their husband throwing their diabetic equipment, it does bring a lot of questions into play. And I hate to point this out because, OP could very well be in a position where they need assistance. And please keep in mind, I'm not denying that. OP very well could have just unfortunately been surrounded by abusers, and it took them until now for them to finally crawl themselves out. And they're still trying to, which is why they're still occasionally needing to ask for, lending subreddits for help, which with lending subreddits, you do need to pay the people back. And if you don't, you are banned and publicly shamed on there. So the fact that she is constantly able to consistently ask for more help means that she is paying people back, and she is doing her part. She just hits a rough spot, needs a bit of help, but does make sure to pay the people back. So she's at least doing that, which that is good. But I don't think I could go to bed at night having recorded this and not pointing out the things that definitely make me raise an eyebrow and make me concerned about the validity of this. And while there are inconsistencies scattered throughout her stories, there is a consistent overarching narrative on the account where a lot of the information has been consistent. This isn't a situation where one day they're posting as like a 21 female and then 2 years later they're posting as a 17 male or some shit like that. I should have done more research before offering to narrate the Hamburglar story. This is on me. There are even comments on the best of posts, like from Majestic Jules, that comments, definitely BS, mostly because I also read the meatloaf explosion, and that isn't how diabetes works. Your blood sugar is going to crash a lot sooner than dinner if you don't eat all day. And if you're about to sit down to a carb-heavy meal, you don't need to pop a glucose tablet first. Dinner will raise your blood sugar just as easily. Shiver and shake comments. For me, the giveaway was when she described how her stepmother drank/smashed all the unique bottles they'd collected and was guzzling her wine when they arrived. I'm well aware that circumstances can change and that those living on the breadline can and should also treat themselves to nice things, but that seemed off. There were so many bottles the stepmother would have died if she drank them all. And yet they're living off Reddit and having meals at her mom's house to save money? BS for sure. I was also a bit suspicious with how fast the courts moved in Louisiana. Maybe they just do move that quickly in, some states, but for me, that was also a bit of a shock. If this story is 100% true, then the stepmother needs to be treated because she needs psychiatric help. 100%. This whole thing just sounds like untreated mental illness at most, and at worst, it's OP lying on Reddit to receive help from strangers. And I normally don't try to point this out for stories, and I normally just try to give as much benefit of the doubt as possible, but with OP's history and how a lot of this looks, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't at least bring attention to it. I know that it upsets people when I question stories and I bring attention to the inconsistencies, or I mention that I just simply don't believe a post. I know that it does cause frustrations with audience because a lot of people, will interpret that as though I'm downplaying the abuse they went through, or that, I should be in the position of believing victims unless I see otherwise. But this is a situation where I do feel like I would be doing a disservice if I didn't at least bring up my concerns. And I also wanted to apologize for not properly vetting the Hamburglar story and, just making sure that this would have been something that would have been a rock-solid entry into a video, and instead we're kind of in this awkward position where I have to be overly critical on this story because I would feel guilty if I didn't, if I just let this slide. Do not message OP, do not target them, do not brigade, do not do any of that. Just let them be. If you want to look at their post history just to see for yourself, go for it. But do not interact, Do not come after them, please. I have high expectations for all of you, and it would break my goddamn heart if I found out that you guys went and harassed an OP of a story because I was skeptical of it. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.